Okay, we're getting down to the last couple selection methods, and as we're progressing, obviously, they're getting more and more complicated. So I've got this path selection that I want to show you, and path selection requires a path which is generated by the pen tool. And if you don't know how to use the pen tool, there's lots of tutorials out there, or I can record something later, but I'm not going to go over how to create the path around this vehicle to change its color, just because it's super involved and there's lots of options. I've got this path pre-created. If I change the opacity of this layer, drop it down, you can kind of see the blue that's selected, or the blue paths that are generated. Okay, so I'm going to go to my path selection tool, and I'm going to select the main path. I'm going to press shift and select those there. Okay, and I'm going to right mouse button over top of my path and make a selection. Okay, and say okay to that. I want to zoom in. I've got a little reflection on this mirror that I want to use the same path selection tool. I'm going to pick this. Well, first I'm going to select the window, and I'm going to make selection here, and here you can choose add, subtract, intersect, same kind of things you can do with all the others. I'm going to select from set, and then click on this one and make selection again, and this is a little reflection, so I'm going to add this to the selection. Press Command or Control 0 to fit to my screen, and I've got two more paths, one for the light, and I can do those together or separately. If I multi-select, I press Shift and click. Okay, right mouse button somewhere, and say make selection. And I want to subtract from selection here. Say OK. Now I want to remove the paths from my view, so simply go to the path panel and click off of the paths. And I want to modify the opacity of this layer just to bring it up so we're actually looking at the vehicle. So I've got this all selected, very nice, crisp, clean edges. Works really well. And I can make a modification to this. Let's go in and generate a hue saturation adjustment layer. And I'm going to change this color. Let's make it purple. Let's make it a vibrant purple, but I want to increase the saturation a little bit and drop the lightness a bunch. Now, if you look, it's changed everything, including the highlights. Now I want to make a slight modification to this, so I'm going to utilize the same mask. Okay, so I'm going to press Command or Control and click on the layer mask thumbnail. Okay, and what that will do is regenerate the selection, so it creates the selection again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to generate a solid fill adjustment layer, a solid color adjustment layer. And this time I don't want it to be black, I want it to be this light blue kind of color, like a sky blue. So let's make it, it doesn't really matter. And you can see it changes the entire color of the car. But I want to limit this just to the highlights, because remember I said I want that sky blue to be reflecting in the highlights. So let's double click on this layer. And this is the technique called blend if. If you ever used it, it's extremely valuable. It's very similar to masking. And I will record something about this later if you're all interested. So I can pull this and you can see how it's limiting it to the highlights. So if I press the Alt or Option key, this creates a feather for me. So at the left marker, there's 0 effect. At the right marker, there's 100% effect. So you can see it transitions from there and it shows all the way up in the highlights. So I can pull this to create as soft a transition as I want. So you can see I got a nice effect, and I can refine this to affect any amount of highlights or any amount of shadows that I want. And with it in this normal blend mode, you can see what it's doing. So it looks okay. So let's change it from normal. Let's change it to color. Okay. So I got a nice effect there. You can see now I've got the reflection colors, but this time I also want to drop its opacity to create a very subtle sky blue reflection in the highlights. Okay, so I've changed the color of the car, but I've used the same mask and applied a sky blue color, and I can change this to any color I want. So I can make it orange, I can make it green, I can make it, just simply by dragging this around. So if I want like a dusk, golden hour shot, I can create this golden hour look to it just simply by dragging that, and you can see it now colors the shadows, or colors the highlights, sorry, with that golden hour look. So, and that's using path selections and a couple little extra blend-if tips and copy and masks and things like that. Okay, so hopefully this will be interested to you, and you still have all the same refinements. So if you want to adjust the mask, all I have to do is click on the layer mask thumbnail, click on the properties panel, and increase the feather to refine it out.